On April 13, 1953, CIA Director Allen Dulles approved one of the most disturbing programs in American intelligence history. It was given the cryptonym MKUltra, and its purpose was to develop techniques for mind control and psychological warfare. What began as a Cold War initiative to counter alleged Soviet and Chinese brainwashing programs would become a 20-year campaign of illegal human experimentation conducted on American citizens without their knowledge or consent. This is not conspiracy theory. This is documented history that the CIA tried to destroy. In the early 1950s, American intelligence agencies became obsessed with the idea that communist countries had developed advanced brainwashing techniques. Reports from the Korean War suggested that captured American soldiers were being subjected to psychological manipulation that turned them against their own country. The CIA feared falling behind in this new battlefield of the mind. Under the leadership of Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist who ran the agency's Technical Services Division, the CIA launched MKUltra to explore every possible avenue of behavioral modification and mental manipulation. The program would eventually encompass 149 separate subprojects conducted at universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies across the United States and Canada. Most of these institutions had no idea they were working for the CIA. The scope of MKUltra was breathtaking in its ambition and horrifying in its methods. Researchers experimented with hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, and various forms of torture. They tested the effects of drugs including LSD, heroin, morphine, mescaline, psilocybin, scopolamine, and countless experimental compounds. They used electroshock therapy at levels far beyond standard medical practice. They attempted to erase existing memories and implant new ones. They tried to create programmable assassins and unwitting couriers who could carry information without knowing it. The human subjects of these experiments were among the most vulnerable members of society. Mental patients were particularly favored because their complaints about hallucinations and bizarre experiences would be dismissed as symptoms of their illness. Prisoners were used extensively because they could be easily controlled and had little recourse to complain. Drug addicts, prostitutes, and marginalized individuals were targeted because they were unlikely to be believed if they reported what happened to them. In many cases, subjects had no idea they were part of an experiment at all. One of the most notorious operations was conducted in San Francisco and New York, where the CIA operated secret apartments furnished with two-way mirrors and recording equipment. Agency operatives would lure men to these locations with the help of prostitutes who were on the CIA payroll. Once inside, the men would be given drinks laced with LSD while CIA agents watched and documented their reactions from behind the mirrors. These men never knew they had been drugged. They never consented to anything. The CIA also conducted experiments in federal prisons. At the Addiction Research Center in Lexington, Kentucky, drug addicts were given LSD, marijuana, and other substances in exchange for their drug of choice. Some subjects were kept on LSD for 77 consecutive days. The research was presented as a study of addiction, but it was funded by the CIA and designed to explore how drugs could be used to break down resistance and extract information. In Canada, Dr. Ewan Cameron received CIA funding through a front organization to conduct what he called psychic driving experiments at McGill University's Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal. Cameron subjected patients who came to him seeking help for anxiety or depression to massive doses of electroshock therapy, drug-induced comas lasting weeks or months, and endless loops of recorded messages played during their unconscious states. His goal was to erase their existing personalities completely and rebuild them from scratch. Patients lost memories of their spouses, their children, their entire lives. Many never recovered. The program also targeted high-profile individuals whether they knew it or not. Ken Kesey, who would later write One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, volunteered for LSD experiments at a veterans hospital in Menlo Park, California. The experience profoundly influenced his work and his involvement in the psychedelic movement of the 1960s. Robert Hunter, who became the lyricist for the Grateful Dead, also participated in these studies. James Whitey Bulger, who would become one of America's most notorious gangsters, was dosed with LSD more than 50 times while serving time at a federal prison in Atlanta during the late 1950s. He later described the experience as nightmarish and said it damaged him for life. Beat poet Allen Ginsberg participated in CIA-funded LSD studies at Stanford University. The counterculture movement of the 1960s, with its embrace of psychedelic drugs, was in some ways an unintended consequence of MKUltra as research subjects introduced these substances into the broader population. The ethical violations inherent in MKUltra were staggering. Informed consent was virtually non-existent. Many subjects were deliberately chosen because they were powerless or their credibility could be easily attacked. When things went wrong, the CIA simply covered it up. In 1953, CIA operative Frank Olson was given LSD without his knowledge during a retreat with colleagues. Days later, he fell to his death from a hotel window in New York. The CIA claimed it was suicide brought on by job stress, but evidence suggests Olson was deeply disturbed by unethical activities he witnessed in the program and may have been murdered to prevent him from talking. His family was not told about the LSD until 1975. Another victim was Harold Blower, a professional tennis player who suffered from depression following his divorce. In 1952, he checked himself into the New York State Psychiatric Institute seeking treatment. Without his knowledge or consent, doctors injected him with massive doses of mescaline derivative drugs as part of a secret Army Chemical Corps program related to MKUltra. After the fifth injection, Blower began experiencing severe reactions. He died within hours. The hospital told his family he died from an allergic reaction to medication. The truth did not emerge for more than 2 decades. For 20 years, MKUltra operated with virtually no oversight. It was funded through secret channels that hid its existence from most members of Congress. The few officials who knew about it considered it necessary for national security. Nobody was protecting the rights of American citizens being used as test subjects. Everything changed in 1973 when Richard Helms, who had become CIA director, learned that the program was going to be investigated. Helms ordered Sidney Gottlieb to destroy all MKUltra records. Gottlieb complied, and thousands of documents were shredded or burned. This destruction of evidence meant that the full scope of MKUltra will never be known. We only know what we know because some financial records survived by accident. These records were stored separately and escaped destruction. In 1974, investigative journalist Seymour Hersh published a story in the New York Times exposing illegal CIA activities against American citizens. This led to the creation of the Church Committee, a Senate investigation into intelligence agency abuses. In 1975, the surviving MKUltra documents were discovered, and the program was exposed to public scrutiny for the first time. The revelations were shocking even in the cynical post-Watergate era. Americans learned that their government had conducted Nazi-style experiments on unwitting citizens. The CIA had violated the Nuremberg Code, the ethical guidelines established after World War II specifically to prevent the kind of human experimentation the Nazis had conducted. The irony was bitter. America had prosecuted Nazi doctors for crimes against humanity, then proceeded to commit similar violations against its own people. CIA Director William Colby testified before Congress and admitted the program's existence but emphasized that most records had been destroyed. Sidney Gottlieb was called to testify but claimed he could not remember details. Nobody was ever criminally prosecuted for MKUltra. Some victims or their families received financial settlements after lengthy legal battles, but most received nothing. The CIA issued apologies but maintained that MKUltra was a product of Cold War fears and that such programs were necessary at the time. Critics argued that no security threat could justify what was done. The long-term impact of MKUltra extends beyond its immediate victims. The program contributed to public distrust of government institutions that persists today. It demonstrated that when intelligence agencies operate in complete secrecy without oversight, abuses are inevitable. It showed that national security can be invoked to justify almost anything. Perhaps most disturbing is the question of what else remains hidden. MKUltra only became known because financial records survived accidental destruction. How many other programs were successfully erased from history? The CIA admitted that related programs continued under different names after MKUltra officially ended in 1973. Documents about these successor programs remain classified. What we know about MKUltra represents the tip of an iceberg whose full dimensions may never be revealed. Today MKUltra stands as a dark chapter in American history that raises uncomfortable questions about power, ethics, and the cost of secrecy. It reminds us that the greatest threats to freedom sometimes come not from foreign enemies but from unchecked authority within our own institutions. The people who ran MKUltra believed they were protecting America. Instead, they betrayed the very values they claimed to defend. This is the story they hoped you would never hear. If you want to discover more hidden truths that shaped our world, subscribe to Beyond the Pages. Hit the like button if this story shocked you, leave a comment with your thoughts on MKUltra, and share this video with someone who needs to know the truth. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.